It's the International Soccer Preview. We are Soccerphiles Canada. Welcome to Series 31, looking at the groups and teams of the 2025 African Cup. This episode is looking at Group E: Algeria, Burkina Faso, Equatorial Guinea, and Sudan. Here we go! It's the International Soccer Preview by Soccerphiles Canada, Series 31. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Connor, and today we're looking at Group E for the 2025 African Cup Tournament. This group has Algeria, Burkina Faso, Equatorial Guinea, and Sudan.
Yes, okay, well, that is it for Section 2, and let's move on to Section 3. Let's begin with the pots that they came from, and we give an overall idea of how strong the group is compared to others by doing this.
Yeah, so Algeria come in as the fourth highest ranked team in Africa in this tournament, so that gives them, they're the pot 1 team, fourth out of the 6 teams in pot 1. In the pot of the 6 pot 2 teams, Burkina Faso are ranked last, and of the 6 pot 3 teams, Equatorial Guinea are ranked 5th. So 2 teams from the bottom of their pots there. Sudan come in as the 3rd lowest ranked team in the tournament.
Right, and they also from the bottom of their pot. So all teams coming from the bottom half of their pot would suggest that this overall is one of the weaker groups.
Yeah.
Yeah, not that it matters because it's just relative to each other. Let's move on to their rankings, FIFA and ELO.
Yeah, so as we saw, Algeria are the top-ranked team in the group. They're 38th in FIFA and 46th in ELO. Kind of a rough average for them over the past 5 or so years.
Yeah, definitely around 2000 and or they have been higher than that. So a bit of a drop over the years there. With Burkina Faso, yeah.
Yeah, so they're 64th in FIFA and 79th in ELO. They've been a bit up and down over the years. They were as high as 50th in FIFA rankings in December 2022 and 61st in ELO. So a bit of a fall since then. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, they've been fairly consistent, actually. If we look at Algeria, around 2014, they were in the top 30 in FIFA rankings. So a bit more consistent for Burkina Faso, but this strikes me as pretty accurate.
For Equatorial Guinea, they're 95th in FIFA, but 87th in ELO. Again, a little bit consistent, though they were below 100 in FIFA rankings in December 2021. So they've come up a bit since then.
Yeah, they definitely get a jump in their rankings whenever they have an African Cup because they do well in the group stages. But as we've seen, not so good in qualifications. So I agree with this one too.
Yeah, and then finally Sudan. They're 116th in FIFA and 108th in ELO. We saw some good campaigns both to get here and in the World Cup. So they've risen. They were in the 120s and even 130s in ELO. So they've come up kind of steadily in both ranking systems as well.
Yeah, they have. It's a relatively good period for them with some decent or not so much in terms of results, but in performance, some more competitive campaigns recently. So they'll be hoping to build on that here. Okay, that is rankings. Let's move to the head-to-head records, and we begin with Algeria versus Burkina Faso.
Yeah, quite a few meetings between these teams, and competitive as well. Algeria has a better record with 5 wins, 5 draws, and 3 defeats. Yeah,
well, Algeria won their first 2 meetings or 3 meetings in the deep past, but actually recently they exchanged home wins in 2014 World Cup qualifying, and they have tied 3 games in recent times, twice in the 2022 World Cup qualifying, and then once in the last African Cup group stage. So I'm seeing this one as pretty even.
Yeah, the head-to-head record would certainly show a lot of parity.
Yeah. On to, speaking of parity, Algeria and Equatorial Guinea.
Yeah, in three matches, it's one win, one draw, and one defeat for each
Yes.
team.
And all of those very recent. We saw in the 2021 African Cup group stage, Equatorial Guinea getting the better of them. Algeria bested Equatorial Guinea in qualifying for this tournament. So, yeah, that kind of sets up an interesting battle.
Yeah, for Algeria and Sudan, Algeria has a better record, 2 wins and 2 draws. No wins for Sudan yet in this pairing.
Yeah, and all of those results were in the previous millennium, so not that relevant. Burkina Faso and Equatorial Guinea.
This is interesting. They've met once and it was a draw, so not very much to go off there.
Yeah, that was in the 2015 African Cup. So Equatorial Guinea had the home advantage there. Both of these teams tend to do well when they get to the cup. Let's look at Equatorial Guinea versus Sudan.
Yeah, for Equatorial Guinea, they've won both of the meetings against Sudan.
Yeah, and that was in the 2019 African Cup qualifying. In fact, in Sudan, where Sudan is usually quite strong, Equatorial Guinea beat them 4-1.
Wow.
So Equatorial Guinea with the advantage there. Let's look at the last one, Sudan against Burkina Faso.
Yeah, and it's Sudan who has a better record here, but just a small sample size of one game.
Yeah, it is. It was in the 2012 African Cup where Sudan did well, and it was Sudan's first African Cup win in 42 years.
Wow.
So maybe they will get the better of Burkina Faso in this cup too. The last thing we'll look at before we get to our discussion is the odds. I have asked AI. Yeah, and actually on the first question it said I'm not really sure, check sports books or other resources, and I typed in think deeply and it gave me these numbers.
All right. Well, for what they're worth, Algeria are the group favorites, at 40% odds to win the group. Burkina Faso are next with 30, and then Equatorial Guinea and Sudan are both at 15%.
Yeah, okay. Well, what it is worth is a starting point for the discussion, and let's start from the top. We're going to repeat some stuff that came up because we are going to use this section as a short version. So we probably chatted a bit too much in section 2, but we'll raise some of the same points. Algeria, do you see them as 40% likely to win the group?
I think 40% is probably accurate. I see them as the favorites, but not clearly so. We have, in Burkina Faso and Equatorial Guinea, two teams that are pretty good in the cup. I think Sudan, although they have are better at home, are capable of getting a point. They had a pretty good World Cup qualifying campaign. And Algeria sometimes falls flat. In fact, Kev, since they won the title in 2019, they failed to win in their next 6 African Cup matches. They haven't won since that title victory. So they haven't always
fallen at the group stage in both cases, right?
Yeah, fallen at the group stages. 2 group stage exits without a win. So they haven't been that great in the last 2 tournaments. So yeah, I think this group is quite competitive, and I think the odds are probably roughly right in that I think every team has a bit of a chance of doing well here.
Yeah, I got to agree with you there. I actually feel Algeria is a bit overrated. In section 2, we did put them as a second tier team, even though they usually come in as a pot 1 team. And certainly like in the 2019 African Cup performance, the 2014 World Cup performance, even the first half of the first game in the last campaign, they look great when they're on. But relatively speaking, those performances are kind of few and far between, pretty blasé performances in the Cup, because apart from 2018, they've struggled to get past the qualification round, and just like recent times, have fallen at the group stage quite often, um, for a team of their stature. So I think they're very vulnerable to Burkina Faso and Equatorial Guinea here.
Yeah, I think Burkina Faso are a strong team. They've done well. They've had a very good World Cup qualifying campaign. We talked a bit about their misfortune being just narrowly missing out, being the fifth ranked second place team when the top four went to the playoffs. And they have some good cup performances in recent times too. We used the word momentum earlier. Sometimes they get it and they take it and go on these deep runs. They've been to, I think they've been to the Final Four on 4 occasions. So yeah, they're a tough team. I think they will be very close, challenging Algeria for first place in the group.
Yeah, in section 2, we did notice that every time they got past the group stage, they finished in the top 4. That record was broken in 2023, where they were knocked out in the round of 16. But as you say, like, they have that kind of reputation to live up to, and they can certainly put in a challenge to Algeria here. I just wanted to ask one question about Algeria before we moved on to Burkina Faso. Do you think the Cup being in North Africa is helpful to them?
I think it is. It's a similar climate and environment. They'll also probably have a ton of fans. They're the neighbors with Morocco. Pretty easy to get around. So yeah, I think it will. They know they're going to the World Cup. This is an important tournament to build towards that. So I think they have a couple things going in their favor.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've criticized them for sometimes being complacent, but because it is in North Africa and they'll have a lot of fans there, that's kind of a force working against complacency there. Nevertheless, Burkina Faso not far behind, and I agree with that 30% chance for Burkina Faso. How about Equatorial Guinea? Do you see them as challenging Algeria and Burkina Faso? I mean, let's say barring a lapsing performance by those teams, which is possible, but I don't think we can kind of assume it in our discussion.
I would love to say yes. I've really enjoyed following Equatorial Guinea over recent years as a tiny country punching truly well above their weight. It's just they have such a cloud over their players. 3 in the World Cup, having 3 games awarded against them for various issues. Not sure which players will be suspended, if their star player will be participating. It's really unfortunate. We saw them finish last time first place in a group with Nigeria and host Ivory Coast, 2 of the strongest countries in the region. So we know they're capable of it, and they've done it over, I think, a sustained period of time. But yeah, I see these off-field issues kind of carrying over. But what do you think? Am I making too much of it?
No, I don't think you are. I think it's kind of one or the other. A bit like Algeria, they either show up as a great team or a flat team with nothing in between. I think Equatorial Guinea, if they have their top players, may show up with something to prove.
Yeah.
And I think they can be a very dangerous team if that's the team that shows up. If those players are suspended, I don't think they have the bench strength to really compensate for that. And I think they'll be a very weak team, perhaps even challenged by Sudan. So I really think it'll be one or the other.
Yeah, a hard team to predict. And as far as Sudan, do you see them getting points off anyone?
I I kind of, well, in their, what was it, 2021 African Cup, they looked pretty good in qualification, won all games at home. And then when they got to the Cup, they looked like the third tier team that they are, and apart from 2012 and the distant past, that's generally the case, that they do well to reach the Cup, but are kind of out of their depth once they get there. Um, um, I'm afraid that is going to be the case here, but I think they might pull a spoiler result at the game level. I guess I don't see them challenging at the campaign level unless Equatorial Guinea has a lot of suspended players. How about you?
Yeah, I think it's difficult. I mean, they've done well to get here. I don't want to downplay it, but Ghana's catastrophic performance was kind of the main reason. And the World Cup too. They did well with a undefeated at home, so that was their strength. So of course they're playing far from home here. I know home is not always in Sudan, but I worry on the road. I mean, even in qualifying, they were lost 4-0 to Niger. That's a pretty damning result. And they do lose to some pretty weak teams. So, their defense is good. They might be tricky to break down, but we don't see a team maybe with an identified goal scorer. They don't score a lot of goals. They look a little bit competitive when they're not uncompetitive when they're not at home. So I think it's difficult to find a lot in their favor to suggest that a shock result is in the cards.
Yeah, I agree with you. Actually, I just had that thought as you were talking. In qualifying, if a team like, Niger, they're playing, they can kind of brick up the goal and win on a single goal, or they do tie quite a few games. I just fear if Algeria or Burkina Faso puts a goal past them, then their defense doesn't really matter that much anymore, and their scoring is really a problem, especially against teams like this.
Yeah.
So I don't. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say they've only been to one African Cup since 2013. That was 2021. And their only point there came from a 0-0 draw. So I think that is probably, if they get a point, that's what it'll be. Probably a 0-0 draw, a frustrating result maybe for an Equatorial Guinea or perhaps one of the bigger countries. But I think that's their best chance.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're always aware of the possibility, like Equatorial Guinea in 2023, that unusual things will happen or big teams can lapse and stuff like that. It's kind of hard to talk about that in predictions and expecting it to happen, but it does happen. So there is an outside hope for Sudan here, but I don't give them much hope. I think they would be delighted to even finish third, even if that doesn't mean passing the group stage. But I think it's definitely a group stage exit for Sudan.
Yeah, I mean, they might, from their perspective, get lucky if they play an Equatorial Guinea team that's in shambles. But I think that's what they're going to need to have any hope of getting out of the group.
Yeah, I agree. They would need a lapse from another team like they had with Ghana in qualifying. Let's talk or maybe finish the discussion here with what you think is a realistic end goal for each of these teams. Do you see Algeria as potential finalists?
Not as finalists. I agree with you that they're a little bit overrated. When you look at kind of some of their past performances, I mean, I guess their last 3 cups have been 1 title and 2 group stage exits, so maybe they're all or nothing. But when I look at the other teams in the groups, even the other pot 1 teams, I think there's some very strong teams. I think you put it well. Like, they may be deceived sometimes, but they're probably a pot like a second tier team. I think they would struggle when they meet the genuine pot 1 teams, Morocco, Senegal. So
Yeah.
I think a semifinal appearance will be good, and they might be helped by a near home advantage, but I would be surprised to see them perhaps go all the way to the final.
Yeah, again, 2019 title was a bit of an outlier, and the quarterfinal is a more typical finish for them. I think, they'd be disappointed to not get past the group stage or even the round of 16, but I don't think they can expect much beyond the quarterfinals, barring an excellent performance, which they are capable of.
Yeah. And I think
Uh, yeah.
I was just going to say with Burkina Faso, I probably see them similar, like quarterfinal being a good achievement. Maybe they do one better. I think winning the group is important for both Algeria and Burkina Faso. You might end up playing a third-ranked team versus a second-ranked team. So, I think if whichever team wins the group will probably get to at least the quarterfinals, barring a big upset. And maybe that's a platform to go further. But if you finish second, you probably have a more difficult path, and that could maybe hamper either of these teams.
That's a really good point. If you're a really strong team, like Ivory Coast in the last cup, if you finish second or third, make it past the group stage, and then you can kind of turn on your gears. It doesn't matter, but I don't think either of these teams really have the gears to finish second and beat someone like Nigeria in the following round. I mean, Burkina Faso does have that record hanging over them that they often finish in the top four if they make it past the group stage. I'd be kind of thrilled to see that happen again, but I don't think it can be expected. And anyway, that record was broken in 2023. I think what you said was really good. I think finishing first or second makes a big difference here. But I think round of 16 or at best the quarterfinals is probably a good result for Burkina Faso.
Yeah, I will point they do have some really elite top level talent. Dango Ouattara, Bertrand Traore. Those are guys who might win a game for them that they might otherwise not win. So that could help even more than Algeria. I think they've got some kind of very talented goal scorers that could help propel them. But generally, I agree with what you said, and I like your point about finishing second. They might not have the next gear to overcome a team that finishes first in their group and is a team like, Morocco, Nigeria, whoever it should be.
Yeah, I mean, further to that, and I don't say this with any great confidence, but I feel like Algeria is aging out a bit. I'm thinking of course, Riyad Mahrez, but I think some of the other bigger names, I would have to investigate more closely to see if they're replacing that quality of player with their new players they're bringing in. But I just kind of get the feeling that they're, at the end of a cycle, if you will.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Equatorial Guinea, I think we've made it clear, or at least from my point of view, that it's one or the other, but nothing in between.
Yeah, we'll see. There's other teams where I groups where I feel like the third place team will definitely beat the fourth place team and go through. I'm not even that confident here. I think Sudan could frustrate them, especially if they're missing, their top goal scorer in Nsue. So yeah, I think they're at risk here. I'd like to see them do well because they're a very entertaining team when they do well. But it's a tough group for them, and that extra cloud hanging over them, I have my doubts. I think passing the group stage would be good. I don't think they would do much beyond that.
Yeah, I mean, I see them as a real wild card. They could finish anywhere from first to fourth in the group, realistically.
Yeah.
And they could finish in the semi-finals or win the whole thing for all we know. But I think going in though that that cloud hanging over them will be hampering them rather than inspiring them, and I think they'll have trouble getting out of the group. And I think we actually started the discussion with Sudan. Me thinking at least that their chances of getting out would be very low.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just want to touch on that 15% for Equatorial Guinea and Sudan. I don't see them as even there. I
No.
think, yeah, if we're talking possibility or probability, I think Equatorial Guinea's ceiling is higher.
For sure.
Okay, well, unless you have anything to add, that brings us to the end.
Yeah.
And I guess that does bring us to the end of our look at Group E. So we have one more group to go. Connor, next time I'll meet you for Group F.
Sounds good. Look forward to it again.
We would like to thank Pixabay and Cold Fingers for the wonderful music used in this media cast. The title of the piece is Eid Mubarak.